Mistakes and failures are a huge part of life, but you don't have to let it define you. Using those failures as fuel to change propels you to take action and transform your life. Join me, Mark Hugentobler, as I interview people who have experienced the rock bottom of the criminal justice system and see how they turn their failures into success, stories that will motivate you and change your life. This is part 2 of Jordon Holdaway's story. He describes his time in prison and then, as he was headed back for a very long time, his good fortune of being accepted into the Other Side Academy, where he was able to completely change the direction of his life. As we start our podcast today, we want to take a minute and thank our sponsors. First, the Other Side Academy, a therapeutic community in Salt Lake City, Utah, helping people that have been at the rock bottom of the criminal justice world become great members of society. Their success saves the state of Utah millions of dollars every year. Peaceful Prisons Project, a national nonprofit that helps formerly incarcerated reconnect with society in healthy ways. My Story Matters and Captain Your Story, an amazing program that, as described by its founder, Amy Chandler, helps all humans live a life of intention and purpose, helping them tackle the problems of everyday life. If you'd like to find out more about any of our sponsors, go to allmyfriendsarefelons.com and click on the link. Well, while you're there, is there any, at this point in your life, is there any sense of, man, I got to fix this? Or are you just still running hard?
No. Yeah, there's no, I've bought into the culture. I've bought, there's these little, when I get into jail, I go to church and I go to AA meetings and I talk a good game when I'm in those
Playing
places.
the game.
Yeah, but in reality, I'm just getting out of the section. I'm just getting out of the thing. I can get out for an hour, go to this meeting, and I can go talk to a church leader or an LDS or an AA sponsor, and I can spin them my BS, and they'll clap for me and tell me, oh, you got so much potential, you can do this. But it's all about me and my ego. It's nothing.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with me really wanting to get on the path to doing something different. And so I go to jail in Ogden for a year. I get released to a halfway house. It was kind of like a mixture of like a homeless shelter and a halfway house. And I was on a zero tolerance probation. And so I took off on the run from this halfway house because I'm using in it. I'm doing all that stuff. And so first time as a fugitive in my life. And I remember that feeling of, while I was on this fugitive status, I was just going to do whatever I wanted because I'm already screwed, right? They're already looking for me everywhere. It's already like, it's only a matter of time, and really just jumped up my behavior. And this is where like violence started to become involved in it. I'm running around with gang members that I've met through the jail and prison stuff. Never was into the gang mentality because I quickly saw that I've got a million problems of my own, and then if I sign into this, I'm just inheriting another million more problems as well. And so that was kind of that period of time. Eventually get caught on the run, and I get one more shot. They say they're going to let me do drug court. And at this point, I think I probably have 7 or 8 felonies on my record, that I've racked up over about a 4-year period of time, from 22 to, well, I guess it would be about a 2 or 3 year period of time from age 22 to about 25. And so I get put into this drug court program. And I'm sure you're familiar with that, with the
right
different things that you've done. And it's same thing. But I think that's one of the first times where I'm kind of like, I want to do something different, because this is getting the old me, the home I was raised in, the religion I was raised in, the community I was raised in, those seeds of, responsible living and doing that stuff, they're still in there, right? And they're still kind of shouting out from the back that who are you turning into? What are you becoming, right? But I'm attracted to other people in drug court that are like me, that rather than seeing that, the part of my problem is I'm surrounding myself with people that see life the way that I see life, and continue to co-sign my behavior and continue to, teach me ways to be more manipulative, and they're more manipulative, and every time they get in trouble for something, they've got a million reasons why it's not their fault, and this, that, or the other. And so I'm still attracted to that type of person, because the type of person that I need to become has high expectations, has high standards, has, is not has boundaries with me, and is not going to let me get away with these negative behaviors in their life. And so I'm attracted towards the people that will let me keep being that way. So I do drug court, and you want to talk about a living hell I put myself through. So in drug court you get random drug tested at certain times, but you figure out the pattern, you figure out the little loopholes. I can use on this day, and then I can chug 2 gallons of water and take some baking soda pills, and I'll be clean for my test on this day. And I did that for 2 years. I did this nightmare chasing my own tail and just putting so much energy into just complete lies and a twisted world. And I was surrounded by other people doing the same thing. And that's not to say there weren't people in that drug court program that got their lives together, because there were. And they took it. They took the handout that was expressed to them, and they used it for a hand up, and they
Right.
got there and they did something different. But I wasn't there yet. I was still just so self-absorbed and so manipulative that I couldn't get there. I did graduate the drug court program. Um, I was high as a kite when I got my graduation certificate from the judge in the courtroom. I was sweating bullets because I couldn't believe that they were handing me this piece of paper and that I had gotten away with it. I mean, as soon as he handed me that paper, and I mean, he's giving me a hug and saying, "Congratulations, you did a great job." As soon as he hands me that paper and that hug's over and stuff, I am beelining it out of that courtroom, out the door, gone. My family's still standing in the courtroom, wondering why I just beelined it out the door. And I'm like, because I can't believe I just dodged that bullet right there. And within 2 months of graduating that drug court program, I am on my way to prison. So just
Did no effect.
had no effect. No, no. If anything, what it did for me, and this isn't, like I said, against the drug court program. They extended chance after chance, opportunity, and I lied my way through that. I BS'd my way through that, and that's what I took out of it. That's what I created for myself with what they were giving me. Was
But
a
Jordan, that happened because you'd never come to yourself.
no.
You'd never come back to reality. You were still living this fantasy, crazy, almost psychotic world of,
No.
the drugs had messed. I'm sure the drugs had messed with your head, and you talked about being a liar and a thief,
Yeah.
and that's what happens with drugs. Whether
Well,
it's you started on your own and the drugs take over, or the drugs just take over right from the start, you're lying, and the person you lie to the most is yourself.
yeah, absolutely. And that's the power of the drugs, is that they allow me to believe my own BS that I've created,
Yeah,
right? That's the only way that
yeah.
I could swallow this stuff, is that I'm chemically in my brain so twisted up with these dopamines and all that, all that chemistry stuff that we know what it does to you, is because my body's falling apart, my spiritual well-being is falling apart. Me as a person, you can't trust a word that comes out of my mouth. I can't keep a commitment. I'm just a walking nightmare. I am, and it's
Yeah.
only a matter of time. You spend time with me, it's only a matter of time till I screw you over. That's who I've become. And those drugs enable me to continue going on functioning that way and thinking that everything's okay, because inside I'm just feeling these warm fuzzies, every time I'm putting that needle in my arm, and I'm okay with it. So, anyways, I end up in prison, 20, 27 years old, on my way to prison for the first time. That was a scary experience because
What was R&O like?
RNO is, so I remember getting sentenced, and you're trying to negotiate with yourself and with all these other people that are around you. You're trying to come up with the best possible outcome of your case. So you're asking everybody around you, well, what's going to happen in this way, and you're searching for the answer that you want to hear, but really you don't know. You don't know until you see that board of pardons, and you're just doing more of the same.
Right.
You know, the time for worrying about this was when you were doing the stuff that got you here, not now. But I remember walking through the double fences, through the sally port of the double fences and the concertina wire, and you walk into this old part of the prison, right? And it's nasty. It's run down. I mean, it looks like something out of some science fiction movie, as some prison that you'd see on an asteroid somewhere, right? Now the rust is falling off the walls, and it's just horrible. And one of the first things that they do is they have you fill out a paper that says where you want your body sent should something happen to you in there. And this has just gotten kind of real.
Real.
Yeah, and the caliber of criminal that I am surrounded by now in prison has increased to these guys will hurt you. They will, you say the wrong thing, you look at them the wrong way, they will react, and they don't have a problem harming you. And you have to start taking on some of that stuff yourself, right? You have to start carrying yourself in a certain way. And it was destitute. You sit in R&O for anywhere from 2 to 4 months, and you're on a 23-hour lockdown in a little tiny cell that's I want to say it's probably 6 by 10, with a bunkmate. And people, there's 4 tiers of guys in these cells with, I don't know, probably 20 cells on each tier. 2 guys in each cell just screaming all day, just screaming and banging on these bars, and just. And I was like, I've become an animal. This is. And so you roll out of R&O, that horrible experience, and you get into population. And once you get into population, that's when you start learning how to survive in this environment. And whether that be, for me, I didn't want to use in jail or prison. I never used in jail or prison because being locked in a tiny room and being high was not appealing to me. It had never been something that I want to do. When I'm out using and doing that stuff, I'm a busybody. I'm doing stuff. I'm taking cars apart. I'm figuring out how we're going to get inside of this safe. I'm doing, that's being locked in a tiny little room and being high was never appealing. So that wasn't something that I sought out while I was in jail or prison. The politics in jail or prison, like I said, I saw real quickly that if you became involved in it, you were just signing on for a whole bunch of problems that you didn't need. Um, and so programming and stuff is what I got into. So seeking out higher education, getting into some of the education programs that they had there, getting into the Conquest program out at the prison, because that was rumored that's the best time you could do was out there at the Conquest program, and you can get time cuts for participating in this stuff. And when I got there, I'd say 30% of the guys that are there are just there because they have to be, and they know that they can do easier time there. I'd say there's probably another 30% of the guys that are there because they don't want to be in general population, and maybe there's a sliver of something inside of them that they want to try to find something different. And then the other third of the guys that are there are really trying to embrace something different with themselves, right? So you've got these different tiers, and I'm sure that lands true of any place that you land. You've got the people that just have to be there, the people that are kind of on the fence and or will go through the motions, and then the people that are really driven. And for me, I think I landed somewhere, I was in that middle section. And so I was working out in prison. That's what you do. You work out, you do the curls for the girls, you get big, you eat, you do all that stuff. So I'm working on the physical health side of things. I the education side, I spent a lot of time reading. I spent a lot of time seeking out the education that I should have gotten for myself while I was in prison. I was in the library. I was reading books on history, philosophy, all this stuff. Probably some of it was, out of appearances that I wanted to be the smart guy that's doing something with himself in here, right? I want to be the Shawshank Redemption guy. But I did good. I did get stuff out of that, right? And then I'm also meeting other people that are that are a little bit more driven, right? There's guys that just sit there and do their time, and there's guys that are driven. And I think I kind of fell more into the driven crowd. And
Clearly, you were.
yeah. And so started buying into some different things and realizing this ain't it, because I'm seeing guys that are in their 60s and 70s that have spent 20 and 30 years in this place. And they have a pathetic existence. Their existence is pathetic. They're wearing the same pajamas that I'm wearing. They're dependent on these guards to give them what they need, whatever, and they've got this bravado about them, like that they've done something with themselves. And I saw it for what it was, and I knew that that was the path that I was on. But this is my first time in prison. It hadn't gotten bad enough yet, so don't think we're turning a
Don't
corner.
think it's turning around yet, huh?
No, but we're meeting people that we're both meeting people that have lived a prison lifestyle and are deeply entrenched in crime and stuff. But we're also meeting people that have that and are wanting to do something different. So I'm kind of like on this teeter totter at this point. So I get out of prison. Mom has supported me through this. My sister, they've been there. They've come to visit me. They put money on my books. They do all that kind of stuff, trying to make it easier for me. And I'm giving them all the right answers while I'm in prison, and I'm expressing to them the things that I'm doing. And I get out, and probably I want to say the first month or two, I'm giving I'm giving it some effort. I'm seeking out. I'm going to AA meetings, and I'm actually trying to do the AA thing. Um, but it doesn't take long because I keep the same group of friends that I went in there with, and have to make sure and connect with them and tell them what I'm doing. And it's not long before I'm right back in the same boat.
Right.
And so within um, probably 6 to 8 months of being out, I'm on my way back to prison again. Um, do that. I've got a girlfriend that has stuck by me through this first prison term too, and we had been together for those first few years of my going in and out of jail and different stuff like that. And so I've drug her through hell and back, right? This girl stuck by me for 10 years off and on, if you can call it that, because I'd be absent for large periods of time being in and out of prison. But by the time our relationship came to an end, I had driven her completely insane. Um, we were young when we got together, early 20s, and I had drug her through just the most hellacious life you could, and totally drove her crazy by the time we were done.
Was she using it all?
Oh yeah, yeah. I brought all that into her life. I had brought
Mm.
I'm gonna do better. I had cheated on her. I had brought all these crazy people into her life, and then I would disappear for years at a time, being incarcerated. And who is she left with?
The same people.
The same people that I've brought into her life. And what do you think they do to her? As soon as the rooster's gone out of the hen house, they're in there,
Use and abuse.
yeah, using and abusing her. And so I do the cycle. I do the prison cycle, and there's not really much to get into. The crimes become more prevalent. I'm
Right.
carrying a gun. I'm selling drugs. I'm out of prison for anywhere from 3 to 6 months at a time, and then the SWAT team's kicking in the door, or the detectives have been investigating me for months, and I'm on my way back. And so I do that cycle of in and out of prison. Um, that's when I met Tyler Hansen. Was on my third trip into prison, and so I had landed in the Conquest program again, and
Again.
Tyler, yep, again, and Tyler had become a friend of mine. He was this kind of white collared rich kid that had landed in prison, and but he was, I don't know, he had this level of like accountability and integrity that he was seeking. And I was getting to a point where I wanted to do something more with myself, and I don't know, we just clicked. We just became friends. And I tried to help steer him through, some of the things that he probably wasn't going to be able to do in prison, that he was trying to do, as far as, um, telling people how they should be better. uh, there's a level you can go to, and sometimes Tyler would push it. I had to remind him sometimes, you are an inmate here as well, right? So,
you have on the white jammies too.
yeah, you have on the white jammies too. But he was trying to do something more with himself, and when you've heard his story and he talks about the people that came into his life and tried to push him to be more, and the trials that he went through while he was in prison, he really did, hit the gate running when he got out. And we stayed in contact, but once again, I stayed in contact with some of my old friends, and they quickly sucked me right back into it. It wasn't on them, it was on me. And so Tyler continued down his path, and obviously we know where he ended up. And I continued down the other path, um, and went back to prison again another time after that, and was released and terminated my prison sentence. So that means that I don't have any probation or parole to answer to. And at this point, I haven't been a religious person per se. I was raised that way, and I don't even say that I would call myself religious to this day. But this last time that I got out of prison, if there was a demonic force that was trying to extinguish any light that I had left inside of me, it was certainly prevalent in my life. Um, it had gotten so dark and so ugly. I had, the level of violence that was on a daily basis, the level of self-fulfilling arrogance and just total disregard for other people's health, life, any of those things. There were points, Mark, where that's the only way I can put it, is there was probably this little sliver of light left inside of me, and I knew that something was trying to put it out. And
Extinguish it.
yeah, and I was doing things that I swore I would never do. I was crossing lines, um, you know, morally inside of myself, and becoming that. I felt like this was it. I was going to be completely lost at this point. Um, what does that look like? That looks like just nonstop uh, abuse of people around me. Using the drug connections that I have to exert influence over the people around me, and just have them doing what I want to do, screwing over acting like I have some kind of sense of loyalty to this group of people, but I'm undercutting them. I'm playing, I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. I'm ugly. I'm nasty. I'm disgusting. Who I've become. Um, there is nothing good or worthwhile about me, and how I can even continue to have people that walk alongside of me in this path is mind blowing to me, looking back on it. But I was surrounded by other people just like me, and just bottom feeders, just disgusting, just just horrible. And by the time it all comes to a head, I'm looking at 17 or 18 new felony charges, some conspiratorial stuff in that, because I'm involved in all these things with all these other people, and I'm on my way back to prison for what probably looks like 10 to 15 years. At this point, I'm 35 years old. I've already spent almost 8 years in prison. I'm becoming that man that I was just talking about earlier. I'm becoming that guy that's just going to be a pathetic uh, loss. And so, trying to mitigate whatever I can out of this stuff. I've Mom's paid for an attorney, same attorney that I've had time after time again, so he's very familiar with me, and we're trying to find some legal loopholes that we can shoot to mitigate some of the damage of where I'm going, and why why the inevitable is coming. So why I'm putting this much effort into it. And we get to a point where there's a couple of things that we can navigate. The the cop didn't say the right thing at the right time, whatever. Just total lack of accountability on my part, right? I'm out here committing hundreds of felonies on a daily basis as a way of life, just disgusting. And I'm trying to find the little loophole of how the cop didn't commit the traffic stop correctly so that I can get out of a little bit of trouble, where I'm at. And so at this time, the Other Side Academy had just started functioning. And
So this was back, what, 2015, 2016?
2015. Yep, 20. This would have been early 2016, so probably around January, February of 2016 is when I heard of the Other Side Academy, and I only heard of it from a cellmate that I had, and he said, "Well, it sounds like you're done, man. You're going to prison for a while. You've burnt every bridge you can burn." He says, "But I just heard about this place in Salt Lake City that's opened up, and it sounds like it's a place for somebody like you. It's for a bunch of, you know." Career criminal ex-convicts that started this place up, and it's like a last chance opportunity. But he didn't even know what it was called. He didn't know the name of it. He says, "I don't know what it's called. I just heard about it." So a couple of months goes by, and he comes back from another court date, and he has the name of it. So I get a hold of my mom, and Mom, you got to check this place out, because I'm grasping at whatever straws I can. Because
So at this point, you don't want to go back and be what you saw.
No,
Be
I
one of
don't
those guys that were.
I saw. I don't want to be. I know that it's almost over. Like I said, the light is about to be extinguished, and so do I know what that means to be something different than that? No, I have no clue. I've spent too many years being this other type of person. But what I know is I don't want to go back to prison. I'm not. I'm not coming back out if I go back in. And so one thing after another, we're trying to go to trial. We're trying to do these different things. The prosecutor said, "No way, we're letting you go to the Other Side Academy. There's just no way." And so we're going to set up a trial thing, and my lawyer comes in to visit me, and he says, "Hey, just so you know, they changed prosecutors. So the prosecutor that you had is going on to do something else. There's another guy coming down from Weber County to take his role." And somewhere in my head, this light bulb clicks on, and I said, "Well, why don't you ask him about the Other Side Academy again?" And he says, "No, they already said no." And I said, "I think you need to go ask him." And so he says, "Well, if that's what you want to do, I'll walk over there to the prosecutor's office, and I'll try." But he says, "I don't think that they're going to say no." Well, it just so happens that this prosecutor had sent uh, three guys from Weber County to the Other Side Academy in the months prior. And these guys all had lengthy criminal records like myself, and they had some massive time over their head. And so he had struck the deal with them that, yeah, I'll let you go to the Other Side Academy, but you're going to plead guilty to everything. And so when you fail, I've got you for, we've got you for the next 10 years or so. Well, they went to the Other Side Academy, and they fell flat on their face. And so he was hoping, I don't know that he was hoping, but that was basically the assertion that he made to me and my attorney was, we'll let him go there, but he's got to plead guilty to everything that we've got him charged for. And
which is probably the rest of your life in prison.
Yeah, it was going to be a significant amount of time. And so that was the deal. And so I went from setting up trial to I needed to get an interview with the Other Side Academy because I hadn't even talked to them yet.
And you can't just walk in the door.
No. And so I'm scrambling, trying to get a hold of Dave DeRocher, and he blows me off a couple of times because he was a busy guy. I'm here. I am intruding into his life, into what he's got going on, and saying, "Hey, I need an interview. If you don't help me." And so finally, I do get in connection with him, and he says, "I don't have a folder with me. I don't have any way to interview you or do it the right way. I'll just wing it, okay? And we'll see how this goes." And we went through the process of the interview, and he's asking me why I should come to the Other Side Academy, where I'm at, and I remember one of the things that I had said to him. He asked me, "Do you love your family?" or something like that, and I said, "Dave, I don't even know how to love myself, so I don't even know how I could love my family." And I think somewhere in that he heard the pain that I was in, and I said, "Look, man, if I go to prison, my life's over. If I go back to prison," and Dave could identify with that. He'd walked that path, right? I said, I don't know. I can't make you a whole bunch of promises about how great I'm going to do or whatever, any of these things. But I do know one thing: if you don't give me this opportunity to come there, my life's over. And he seemed to hear that, and they accepted.
I kind of bet he heard the honesty
Yeah,
because you weren't making excuses.
no,
You weren't blaming somebody else. You were saying, "Man, I don't know how to love myself, let alone somebody else.
yeah,
I'm going to prison for the rest of my life. I am desperate."
yeah.
I bet that's what he heard.
And I told him I didn't have any more excuses, and there was not. And I knew that he was an ex-con. My mom had done enough research about the Other Side Academy for me to understand who this guy was that I was talking to. So there was nothing I was going to say to him. I just said, "Look, man, I've burnt every bridge that I have. I've destroyed every single thing that's come into contact with me, and I'm asking you to help me." And that was it. And sure enough, he was coming to pick me up 2-3 days later. So the judge went with it, the prosecutor went with it, and so this deep internal battle that I'd been going through for the last month or two uh, in jail, all of a sudden like that, I'm walking out the front door of the jail. Dave's picking me up, and I'm coming down to the Other Side Academy.
So did you think, oh, I've beat it again?
I didn't at first. At first, I was just blown away that this had even happened, and there were some moments where I was like deeply grateful to whatever God that there was that had gotten me into this situation. But what do? As drug addicts and as ex-cons, we're real quick to forget how ugly it had gotten. And so I get into the academy, and I'm looking around, and here's some people that I know that I'm seeing act completely different than I've ever seen them act. I'm kind of like, is this place a cult or something? Like this is weird, Like all these people are walking around with smiles on their faces, and I know that dude ain't. He doesn't smile. That dude don't smile, And so I'm trying to like figure out because that's how I'm wired. I'm trying to figure out what's the angle here. What's going on here? What is this still? And um, I get exposed. So the Other Side Academy is a therapeutic community, just like Conquest was in the prison, and they have some of the same foundational blocks to them, but Conquest is not run at the level of, um,
Well, in Conquest, you can play the game.
yeah,
You
there's
can
a
you
quota
can
system,
you
and you're
can sell your push up. You can buy push ups. You can do all these different. You can work your way around it. In the Other Side Academy, there's only one way to go, and it's forward,
yeah.
and it's through.
So I was
Yeah.
familiar with the concept of the therapeutic community when I got there, but I came at it with the mindset of somebody who'd been through Conquest, right? What's the angle? How do I,
Yeah. How do I beat it?
how do I get into this leadership position, or how do I do this to get, how do
Yep.
I mitigate my problems that I have here? And it didn't work. And I was sneaky in my behaviors, and when I say sneaky, I was that duplicitous guy that I've always been. I found other people in the Other Side Academy that would be duplicitous with me, and against all advisement from the leadership here, from Dave, from Joseph, from the older students that had already been here for months. They're advising, hey, this is not the route to go. It's not going to work for you here. It's not this, and they're explaining to you the duplicity and the two-faced and the life that you've lived before. You can put it away here if you want to, but if you choose to keep acting the way that you've always acted, you're going to keep that person alive that you've always been. And so uh, for the first few months that I was here, I was sneaky, and I would find other people that would be sneaky with me. And then what that looks like is, we call it getting dirty, right? Having conversations that you're not supposed to. When you come to the Other Side Academy, they ask you not to talk about your past. We don't care how many times you've been to prison. We don't care what you did to get there. We don't care what kind of drugs you used. We don't care about any of that. Any of that. We care about what you're going to do right here, right now, in this moment. And so they tell you not to talk about that stuff. Well, as soon as I could get some privacy or slip off into a corner, I got to talk about that stuff. How many times I've been to prison, you know, what a what a big time dope dealer I thought I was. Not any of those things, but that's what we do. We keep telling these stories and building this, exaggerating and minimizing, and never telling the story for what it really is, the truth. And so that's why they ask us not to do that here. And so I would do that. I I would use as a telephone when I would get out of the house. First couple times I got freedom, I found a couple of guys that would go with me because you can't do anything at the Other Side Academy by yourself. You always have a partner with you. So I found other people that would do the things that I wanted to do. Same guy that I'd always been in prison, same guy, all these other things, and would go to the gas station and call a girlfriend. Why? Call her just to say, hey, I'm here, I love you, whatever. Some just
Yeah.
putting my and mind you, I've got this gigantic prison sentence over my head. Nowhere in my mind is that computing that I'm breaking these rules, I'm doing these things, and wow, you've got this huge prison sentence over your head. It's very important that you complete this process.
Because if you fail here, you're going there.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but as time went by, you're surrounded, and I'm getting called out on my behaviors, on the stuff that is visible. I'm getting called out, and I'm getting asked to adjust this and do that and fix these things. But there's these, you know, and I mean, this is probably a good time for us to talk about how the Other Side Academy works. So
Yeah.
so that I can help you through that, explaining that to people because it's different than any place you've ever been before. And so I know you wanted to talk a little bit about like the principles, and maybe I can lay those principles into some of my experiences while I was here.
I think that's a great idea because I really want to talk about it. I want to tell our listeners about what the inner workings of the Other Side Academy are and why it works.
Yeah. And so when you come to the academy, it's one of the things is like I said, you're asked to quit talking about the past, um, and you're asked immediately to be immersed in these higher level of expectations, right? And that's something that's a lot different than a lot of other rehabilitation programs or any of these other places is because they kind of try to ease you into it, right? Like we know you've been through a lot, you've got trauma from your past, you've got this and that, but at the Other Side Academy, the newest guy that gets here, the guy that is the first, he's been here for 10 minutes, he's held to the same standards and expectations as the guy that's been here for the last 5 years. And people will say, well, that seems kind of ridiculous. How is that new guy going to be able to do that? Well, how do you teach a kid how to swim? You throw him in the pool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
That's
if they don't get in the pool, they'll never learn.
you're never going to get somebody that has a low standard of living or these duplicitous ways of living to change those things if you let them ease into fixing those things.
Because they're always going to reach back and grab what's safe
Yeah,
and what
exactly.
they know. They're always going to attach themselves to their comfort zone,
Yep.
which is ugly.
Yeah, and so
So,
immediately having that expectation right off the bat, hey, we're not going to talk about the past. We want you to get up, have a good attitude, go to work, uh, not get caught up with your peers, and we expect you to hold your peers accountable, and we expect you to do that from day one, right here, right now. Well, you know, that's a culture shock. That's a culture shock for people
oh yeah,
and you want to come up with excuses. And so, say a situation happens. You've been here 2 or 3 days at the academy, and you and this other freshman, because you're both freshmen, you're new guys in the house. You're going through this process, and he decides to start talking about, yeah, I'm from Salt Lake. I live down in this neighborhood down there. I used to run with this gang, right? And that's a that's a fishing trip right there. What he's doing is he's putting that information out there to see how you'll react to it, and trying to see, okay, is this guy going to let me talk about this? Because everybody when they walk in the door has been told, don't talk about your past. There's not like and it's explained to you, don't talk about your past. So if you're doing that, what you're doing is you're fishing for other people that will let you get away with stuff, right?
yeah,
That's common in rehabilitation centers, that's common in jail, that's common in whatever. I'm going to spark
yeah,
up a conversation to see where you'll go at it with me.
yeah.
And so the expectation in that moment would be that I would pull. So if that's you talking to me, you're saying, hey, I used to run around in this neighborhood and I used to run with this gang. The expectation is that I'm to look at you and say, Mark, we don't talk about stuff like that. And if I don't do that, if I don't do that, and that's the expectation for the newest guy in the house, right? Now,
Right.
do you think they make that 100%? Do you think
Oh
that
no, they're going to have a hard time fighting through that. That's going
yeah,
to be a hard thing because criminals love to tell their story.
yeah,
They love to sit down in their groups, get in their groups and get I did this and I did that and it's a one-upmanship and it's a credibility thing and so that's part of their identity. It really is. It's part of their identity and so losing that overnight, uh-uh. On
yeah,
the other hand, drawing a line in the sand and say that's the expectation. That's how you learn to swim.
exactly. And so, and that's part of breaking that identity is not being able to talk about it because that's what we do. The fish was this big. We tell the story over and over again until it's not even, and we keep that identity alive. We
Yeah.
keep that being that same person. And so, but anyways, the expectation is okay. You're going to pull them up. You're going to set that boundary. You're going to hold them accountable. And one of our principles is called 200% accountability, and that's another thing that we're teaching guys. I 200% accountability, I think, is one of the most fascinating and effective tools that we are missing, not only in the recovery world and in rehabilitation, but we are missing in society in general. And the way that 200% accountability works, is that if you and I are together in the same place, Mark, and you do something that is dangerous to yourself, to others. It is below the level of expectation of what we as a group have committed to live at, or any number of things, or if it's even just beneath you of what you're capable of doing. If you do those things, and I'm in the same room with you, I'm in the same living space, same area, and I don't speak up and say something to you about it, I don't correct that behavior in you, I am just as guilty of that behavior as you are. And so that's a quick thing. So rewind it back. The guy's talking about his past, whatever. The other guy that's with him decides he's not gonna pull him up. He's not gonna correct it. He doesn't have the backbone to do that yet. Well, eventually this is going to come to a head. It always does. The ripple effect comes out, and so that other guy that's not holding the other one accountable is going to get held accountable by the entire group, by the entire house, and they're going to say to him, "Yeah, he was talking about his past, and that's messed up, and that's wrong, and that's against the rules. But on top of that, you're letting him do it. So you, in essence, are the very problem that he came here to fix. You are allowing that very problem to continue."
You're enabling him.
Yeah, exactly. And we're all in this together. We've all agreed we're trying to help each other be better people. So if you're not letting him be a better person, then you in essence are helping him kill himself. These are the types of discussions that we're having with each other. And I think that 200% accountability piece, I mean, is something that is just shifted for me. It's helped me realize I am the sum total of the people I spend my time with, and that's been a big, huge proponent for me. Is that 200% accountability? I used to think loyalty was you do you, I'll do me. I won't interfere with you. You don't interfere with me. Today, I know that loyalty is I will never behave in any way, shape, or form that you have to lie for me or cover up my behavior or can't say exactly who I am and what I'm doing at all times. That's loyalty. I should never put you in a position that you would ever have to, hey, hey, Mark, just don't tell him I.
You just don't tell anybody. Yeah.
That's not loyalty. And so these
You
are,
know that ties into the first belief is which says you alone can do it, but it also says you can't do it alone.
yep. And
It
that,
talks about the personal responsibility that I have for me and the responsibility that I have for you.
yeah, for sure. You alone can do it is saying that you've got to go through this process. You've got to
Right.
go through the academy. You're going to have to go through all the levels and the different hard things that are going to come at you, and only you can walk that path. But you're going to be doing it with other people along your side. But you have to take each and every step. They can show you where the steps are. They can hold the flashlight out to give you the path, but you're the one that has to walk the path. And that's that's our first principle, and that leads into everything else. And the people at the academy, everybody here that's a staff member, everybody here that's an older student, a master's student, has gone through this process ahead of you and has valuable information to share with you.
And one of the things I've been to the Other Side Academy multiple times. I went there and spoke a couple times, and I met a lot of the people, that are inside the academy and they're going through it. And the thing that really impressed me about it is they're all individuals, and they're all themselves, and they all have their own personalities, but they're all living the same beliefs and the same principles, and or doing their best to do so. And you talked about 200%. We just talked about you alone can do it, or excuse me, you can do it, but you need others to help you. There's another one, each one teach one, that you kind of alluded to,
Yeah.
that says, we're not going to depend on 3 professors and 4 teachers and a couple. We're going to teach each other, and we're going to, employ these kind of therapeutic community habits together. And we use that in the prison when I was doing education there. The each one teach one and the 2% accountability. We applied both of those to what we were trying to do.
Well, and
Very
that
effective.
the each one teach one, and that carries beyond just, the belief is if you have something to give to somebody else, if you have if you have a knowledge or accomplishment or something that you have inside of you, the expectation is that you're to give it out to others. And whether that
Share
be
it.
from employment skills, maybe you know how to frame a house, maybe you know how to use software, maybe you know how to drive a, a commercial vehicle, whatever. So those are like employment skills, right? But that also comes into personal hurdles that you've overcome and challenges. And it could be you might be good at public speaking, right? Or you might be very good at with your creativity. Any of these different things. The way to foster and create a sense of community is for you to take that which you are good at and help others become good at it as well. And that creates that connection point of, okay, here's what I have to give, and I'm willing to give it to you. If you hold on to it stingily, if you hold on to these challenges that you've overcome, the lessons that you've learned, the 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 personal struggles that you've had, and you hold on to those and you don't share those with the new people coming in, then you're undercutting the whole entire thing. You know, you
Yeah.
we're a fear driven organization.
Well, and it's synergy. If you will go back to the definition, it really is it's strength in individuals creating together. A couple other your beliefs: impeccable honesty, which you've kind of spoken about, and the importance of just. And as I work with and talk with people that have come through the academy, that's the first thing I recognize is how they put it out there. They're not hiding their cards. They're not playing a game. They're just, these are my cards. This is what I've got. This is who I am. And they're moving forward. And I think that's a great way to solve problems, because I know you can vouch for this. We live a life of sin, or we live a life of decrepency, and we hide, and we want to cover it up to certain groups, and then we want to brag about it to other groups.
Yep.
But when you get to the point of impeccable honesty, it's all there. I had this life. You just told it in your story. I had this life, and it was terrible, and I was a miserable, awful person. And you own that, but you also own the journey you've taken in the last 8 years to get where you are, and to be the person, to unveil the person you've always been,
Yeah.
and to get rid of the things that were distracting you from becoming what you need to become.
Well, and being able to be
Uh,
honest with yourself when you notice things about yourself that are, less than
Need to be
what.
fixed.
Yeah, because if you can't be honest with yourself about that, you can't bring it to a head. I can't bring it to you, Mark, and say, "Hey, I'm going through this thing." If I'm busy covering it up, if I'm
Yeah,
busy trying to justify it or make an excuse for why my thinking is okay in this way, and that thinking will turn into action, which will then turn into consequences. Whether those are, you know, negative actions turning into negative consequences, or positive actions turning into positive consequences. But you've got to be
which
honest.
comes back to which comes back to the accountability piece.
Yep.
one of your beliefs is and this is I think an interesting way to say this: act as if. Tell us about that.
So acting as if means that, we talked about this ex-convict coming into this program, right? And just being held to this accountability, held to this expectation level that the same people that have been there for years are being held to. And so acting as if means, okay, you don't know how to be honest, you don't know how to be accountable, you don't know how to work hard, and act like you do until you actually learn how to do that. And we'll point out to guys all the time, you can turn it off and turn it on, right? You can, when you want to get something out of somebody, you know how to turn on the waterworks or the compliments or doing these certain things. So you already
The
know,
manipulative crap.
yeah,
Yeah.
you already are wired to be able to adjust. So even though you don't want to do this in the moment, you don't want to put a smile on your face and treat the guy next to you with respect, we're going to ask you to do that. And if you do that enough times in a row every day, pretty soon it won't be you having to put the smile on your face and get along with the guy next to you. You will wake up with a smile on your face and you'll naturally get along with the guy next to you. You want to learn how to be sober? Then act as if you're sober. And what do sober people do? They don't use. So act as if. And some of these things are crazy. And acting as if also falls into, if you're having a bad day or you're going through some stuff, act as if you're having a good day. And that's not like a cover it up or do whatever, but push through it. Act as if. You want to become honest, then act as if you're honest. And that means tell the truth in the next moment. Tell the truth over and over again until it's not hard for you to tell the truth anymore.
Yeah, I love the way that's stated. Act as if.
Yeah.
It's a great way to put it. So, uh, Jordon, can you tell us the success rate of the academy?
Yeah. So
What kind of luck do you guys have helping people?
So for guys that stay the 2.5 years, for guys and gals that stay the 2.5 years, we're at about a 68 to 70% success rate for them to not to remain crime free, drug free, and employed for the following 5 years after. So
So 60 is about 70%.
yeah, close to 70%. It fluctuates as we keep
Right.
having graduates coming in and out, but it's staying right around that 68 to 70% range. Yep.
And just FYI, the success rate of the prison system is pretty much flipped. It's about 30%.
Yeah, it's the complete
About
opposite.
30% of the people stay out of prison 5 years after, and they don't look at employment, they don't look at drug use, they just look at stayed out of prison.
That's right. And
So,
and the Other Side Academy doesn't take federal or state funding, so we're not bound by bed space and timelines, right? So 2.5 years is the minimum commitment that we ask for you to come and be at the academy.
I want to thank you so much for listening and supporting the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating, a review, or a like, as it helps our show grow. Thank you so much.